Hey guys, so as I promised, this is the video for the last example that we tried to do it in the class. Sorry I couldn't record it yesterday. There's a bit of gimmick with the Xbox app on my laptop. So here's the explanation of it. Let's actually move this one up over here. So I already uploaded the lesson note to the website. However, I'm just actually going to go through the explanation here. So when you're looking at the drawing, we know that the blue shaded area is 200 square meters in terms of the area. Then some of you may, question me that how come this is 20 plus 2x, right? Well, 20 is the width of the portrait, but we know that this part and this part is the x. So when you have 2x's plus 20, well, that gives me the 20 plus 2x as a overall width of it. Then the same idea for the 15 plus 2x as well. So when you're looking at the actual expression, the shaded area, the area that we know of, is 200. And then in order for us to find the shaded, it's actually total minus portrait. So when you try to find the expression of the total area, which is basically just the length times width, that gives me the 20 plus 2x times 15 plus 2x. Now the portrait, as we know, it is 15 minus 20, so that's where we get that 15 times 20 from. Then all we have to do is we have to FOIL them, right? We have to FOIL them. Once you FOIL like this, you will eventually get 300 plus 40x plus 30x plus 4x squared. Obviously, then 15 times 20 becomes 300. So far okay. If not, then I want you to pause and think about it a bit. Now, obviously, there can be different ways of doing it. One can be basically rearranging the whole thing or thinking a slightly different way of it, that you will find the area of this portion, you will find the area of this portion, and then you will find the area of this and that, and you will try to find it. So if you're interested, I will actually show it to you in the video as well. So then here we are trying our best to solve for the x. So again, in order for us to solve for the x, we have to have one side 0. So I subtracted 200 from this, okay? But before that, we just to cancel the 300 minus 300. So that's where that negative 200 comes from, okay? So the 300 here, I'm subtracting 300 will become 0. And then I subtract this 200 from both sides. That's where this 200 or minus 200 comes from. Now, then we have 0 equals 4x squared plus 70x minus 200. And then somehow the next line becomes 2x squared plus 35x minus 100. So this is the point where you kind of have to pause for about 5 seconds-ish and think about why, okay? Pause it and think about why. You actually have to think about why. If you determined or if you have come up with the reason why it becomes 2x squared plus 35x minus 100, actually I divided everything by 2. So I divide everything by 2, even this side, divide everything by 2. So if you can see it, 0 divided by 2 is a 0, 4 divided by 2 is basically 2, 70 divided by 2 is 35, 200 divided by 100 is, 200 divided by 2 is 100. So I just simplify the equation a little more so that we are dealing with smaller numbers. Now then, here we have a quadratic equation. So it's up to you whether you use factoring or you use completing the square way or you use quadratic formula. So in this case, let's say try to use the quadratic formula. Now, hopefully you remember the quadratic formula, okay? The quadratic formula is always minus or negative b plus minus square root of b squared minus 4ac over 2a. Now it's disappearing. Do not worry too much about that. I set my stylus in a pointer mode, so it kind of disappears after a certain period of time. Now we covered that before in the class, so you should know that by now. So in this case, b is 35, a is 2, so this is my b, this is my a, and this is my c in the standard form. All you have to do is you substitute that in. So then it becomes negative 35 plus minus 35 squared minus 4 times 2 times negative 100. Remember, the sign actually follows the number. Okay, so do not just take the number itself, the sign actually follows. Then once you calculate this, 35 squared minus 4 times 2 times negative 100. Now, quite a lot of times, students make a mistake that they actually calculate these two first. Okay, some of you probably did that already. Please don't do that. Okay, please don't do that. You're not supposed to do that. You are supposed to follow the BEDMAS. So you have to multiply these three numbers first, okay, before you subtract or add to that 35 squared. Now, once you calculate it, you will have 2025 inside of the square root, and that happens to be 45. So this means that you have negative 35 plus 45 or negative 35 minus 45. So this is the negative 35 minus 45 piece, and this is the negative 35 plus 45 piece. So then once you simplify them, the first one becomes negative 20 and the second one becomes 5 over 2. In this case, we have to reject the negative 20. Here you have to think about a bit, okay, and you have to be very careful. So I want you to pause the video. I want you to think about why we have to reject the negative 20, okay. It's quite simple. Now, the reason why we have to reject the negative 20 is because x here represents the width. Now, width cannot be negative unless you're going inside of another dimension, probably. I don't even know how we can actually express that in this level of math. So we have to reject the negative 20, and the only value that we can have is 5 over 2, and that will be the width of the frame. Now, this one was kind of lucky that we didn't have a radical number here. The square root of 2025 actually turns out to be an exact number, which is 45. Now, time to time, it may not happen such way that you will have some ridiculous number inside of a square root that does not turn into a whole number. So that means you have to simplify that radical using the strategies that we learned in the class. Okay, so make sure you do that when you work on it. Okay, we already covered it. So hopefully this video helped you understand the example number 2. Okay, hopefully you understand that. If you don't, then please come to me for extra help. Okay. Okay, perfect. So talk to you guys later. Hopefully you enjoyed the rest of the Saturday and Sunday as well. And I'll see you guys on Tuesday. Okay, bye guys.